All right, here we go. Trial 27 and a half here. We're working on notes for 4 or 5. We're just doing part A right now. So this is integration techniques. So we're going to talk about the fundamental theorem of calculus. We discussed this before, where if we have numbers top and bottom, we can take the antiderivative of our integrand and evaluate at the upper limit and at the lower limit. And we're just going to subtract those two values, and that'll be the area under the curve. All right, there's fancier notation. Same idea, you're going to draw the vertical line when you evaluate to get your f of b minus f of a. An example with your cubic. So your antiderivative takes it to the fourth power, you divide by 4. We evaluate from 3 to 1. So here's your f of b. Here's your f of a. There's your subtraction in between. Some people put an equal sign here, and some people do not. There's no rhyme or reason really. It's kind of regional and globally regional. So when we subtract, you clean it up and you're good. Some may ask what happened to our plus c that we always had. So if you write the plus c and then you evaluate for your f of b and f of a, they will always subtract out. So your plus c is only needed when it is an indefinite integral where there are no numbers top and bottom. When they do appear, then it's not necessary because they're going to cancel out. All right, so we have 5 examples here we're going to complete, and then we're done for part A. So we're going to evaluate our definite integral. So first step is to take your antiderivative, draw your vertical line, right in your upper limit and lower limit. Parentheses are helpful so you can visually see the separation from your upper and lower. So I can see my parentheses and I see my subtraction in the middle, which tells me where my f of b and f of a are. So when I evaluate at 2, I'm going to end up getting 2 squared is 4. 4 times 3 is negative 12, negative 12, negative 6. And then evaluate at 2, then I'm going to have an 8. And this is the location here. Some people put an equal sign here, some people do not. Like I said, it is regional in terms of the whole world, not just United States. So if you do, that's okay. If you don't, that's okay as well. But here we're going to need an equal sign. So what am I going to have here? I'm going to have 1.5 of 25. So that is a negative 37.5. Plus 20 gives me negative 17.5. And then this result would be a positive 2, but it's behind the subtraction. So it makes it a negative 2. So then I have negative 19.5. All right, so if I look at a sketch there, right, if I graph it, and I have a really steep slope, so there's, right, this is 1, and I got to go all the way to 4. I got to go all the way to 5. I'm going to go from 2 to 5. So 2 is somewhere near this intersection, so you can see the majority of this graph is below the x-axis, which is why we have a negative result. All right, next one here. This is going to be a fact we're going to talk about later. This is an odd function, and the lower limit and upper limit are equidistant from that symmetry point. All right, we're going to see what happens here. So I'm going to take my antiderivative. Going to evaluate. Oops, that's a positive 1 on top, a negative 1 on the bottom. So here's my f of b. I'm going to have my 1/4 minus my 9/2. My f of a, I'm going to put a negative in, but if I evaluate a negative to the 4th power or squared, it's going to end up with a positive result. So it's going to end up having that same set of information that we just did. That is the symmetry component of an odd function. So now I can see that my f of b and my f of a are identical. So if you subtract 2 things that are identical, you're going to get 0. Pretty good, eh? All right, so now we're going to slide over to example 3 here. So for example 3, we're going to want to clean this up, okay, because that looks a little ridiculous. So any constant we can pull out in front of the integrand, so that 2 is in the denominator, so it's got to stay there, so I've got a half on the outside. Otherwise, every term then has an x. All right, don't forget a cubic here is really x to the 1/3. All right, so then if I eliminate x to the 1/3 from all of them, then I have a 2/3 power here. Then instead of a 2, I've got a 5/3 power there if I cross off that 1/3. So that means I've got x to the 2/3 minus x to the 5/3 dx. All right, so now then this 1/2 is going to come down. I'm going to go with my antiderivative. So you can divide by the power, or you can go up 1, and instead of dividing by the power, you multiply by the reciprocal, because in the end we really don't want this complex fraction. So you're going to flip it eventually. So if you can see that earlier, it's going to make your life a little smoother. All right, so I still have my 1/2 here. So if I evaluate at -1, again, I'm looking at the powers. So I've got a 5 and an 8. The 5 is going to allow it to stay negative, and the 8 is going to make it positive. All right, so I have my 3/5 that's going to be there, and if I evaluate my x to the 5/3 at a -1, it's going to remain -1. So now I have my 3/8, and now I have my -1. Once it's raised to that 8, it's going to turn positive. All right, so for lack of a bracket here, so there's my f of a. All right, so now here comes my f of b. So again, the 3/5 is there. I'm going to have -8 raised to the 5/3 minus 3/8. And then -8 to the 8th power is going to be a positive. So I'm just going to write it in as a positive so I don't make any handwriting errors. All right, and we'll just clean this up a little bit. I think it's going to get a little ridiculous, but we'll clean it up a little bit just to get some practice on it. So I'm going to have a -3/5 minus a 3/8. And you got to remember the subtraction needs to go to every term. So again, we said that this 8 in the middle here with this odd power is going to remain negative. So when I distribute that negative sign there, it's going to turn positive. All right, so now side conversation here. So if I've got 8 to the 5/3, the third is telling you that it's a cube root. Well, the cube root of 8 is really a 2. So then I have 2 to the 5th, and 2 to the 5th is a 32. All right, same backside over here. We have a negative here, so when we distribute that subtraction, it's going to turn positive. 3/8 is 3/8. Same idea. If we've got 8 raised to the 8/3, the third is telling you cube root. Cube root of 8 is a 2. 2 to the 8 is 256, I think. 32. 64 would be to the 6th. To the 7th would be 128. To the 8, yep, 256. 256. And then we can clean it up a tad more here, right? If I have -3/5 here, and I have 32 groups of 3/5, and I add up those like terms, I really have 31 groups of 3/5. Same idea here. I've got a -3/8, and I've got 256 groups of 3/8. So then I would have 255 groups of 3/8. And then from there, I would just say type it, because it's getting a little bit annoying now. And then we should get 57. Or for those that like common denominators, we got 45, 6, 9 over 80. All right, I just wanted to make sure that we got some of the practice with the exponents and some of the fraction work. Otherwise, with the A tier is really making this not realistic AP question for auto calculator, but it was nice to get some of this practice. They will expect this, the cubic idea with the 8. It's just this 2 to the 8th was really the killer. All right, now example 4. So we have absolute value, and as we discussed before, that means you need to break it up into a piecewise. So if you can imagine the graph here, right, if you factored it, you'd have x minus 3, x minus 1. Okay, and it's a quadratic opening up, so they know at 1 and 3, we're going to cross the x-axis, so we're going to be x-intercepts. And I also know at 3, we're a y-intercept. So that means my graph has to be coming down, and it's got to come back up. So if it's absolute value, that means that the negative portion has to be positive. So we're looking for the area under the curve, and we're going all the way to 4. Okay, so we're looking for those 3 pieces. And based on the symmetry of the quadratic, this first triangular area and this last triangular area are going to be congruent. And if you really wanted to, you can divide that portion in half altogether. Okay, so we're going to break it up into pieces that we know. So we know that from 0 to 1, we can just take the area under the curve. We can double that because that would be the equivalent to the area from 3 to 4. All right, and then we can calculate this out. Okay, so I'm going to have that constant 2 here. So I'm going to have my cubic minus, so if I go up x squared and divide by 2, and there's a 4 there, just means I'm going to have a 2 as my coefficient. Then if I evaluate from 1 to 0, and having the 0 in the lower limit is very helpful because everything goes away 90% of the time. Just remember for your trig functions, cosine of 0, it does not go away. Okay, so just for making sure we're considering 0 here, right? If I evaluate 0 in any polynomial, each term is going to be a 0. All right, so I thought about it. It is a 0. I'm not ignoring the fact. So then if I add them up here, right, I got a negative 2 and a 3 would add to 1. 1 plus a third would be 4 thirds. So then the triangular portions here are going to add to 8 thirds, right? They're going to be 4 thirds each. Okay, that's part of the problem. Now we need to go from 1 to 3, and we'll just do it as a half circle like that. So I'm going to integrate the same function, but I'm going to I already did the antiderivative, so I'm not thinking about it again. I'm just looking up and copying it down again. All right, so when I calculate my f of b, it's going to be brand new, but I already know what my f of a, right, when I evaluate at 1, because I just did it up above, that result was a 4 thirds. So I'm going to use that answer. Now I'm going to go back and evaluate at my upper limit of 3. So then 3 cubed is 27. 27 divided by 3 takes it back to 9. All right, so then I've got 9 here. 3 squared is 9. 9 minus 2 is 18. And then I have 3 times 3 is also a 9. 27 divided by 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so this ends up going to 0. So then my final answer here is a negative 4 thirds. Okay, so based on the graph, that makes sense because we didn't flip it. We know it's going to be negative. Okay, so the purpose of what we're doing is we want to take that positive portion, which means we need that positive portion. So I have a 4/3. So I have a 4/3 here. I have an 8/3 there. So that means the area under the curve is going to be 12/3 or 4. We just had to break it up into little pieces. Okay, last one. All right, so it doesn't give us what the upper limit is or the lower limit. So it's always going to help to sketch it. Okay, so I know it's a quadratic opening down. I can tell that my y-intercept is 0 and my x-intercept is 0 then. And my other intercept is a 3. And I'm just factoring that in my head. Right, if I take out an x, take out a negative x. Or if you did not take out a negative x, you took out a positive x, it's going to give you the same result. All right, and they say my second line here is y equals 0, and that is the x-axis. So that tells me I want to start at 0 and I want to finish at 3. And my integrand is the function. So now I'm going to take the antiderivative. I'm going to evaluate between 3 and 0. So I feel like I just did this one. So you have 9 plus 27 halves. And then if I put in 0, it's a polynomial, I'm going to outcome 0. 27 halves is 13 and a half. So 13 and a half, 23, 22 and a half would be my area under the curve. All right, we'll see how this goes, and I'll try B next.